Hey buddy, Dom here. Today, I'd like to talk briefly about two items in Team Fortress 2, specifically, the Spy's default revolver versus the Enforcer. Let's start by looking at the stats on the Enforcer, mainly because the stock revolver has no stats. The Enforcer deals 20% more damage, but also fires 20% slower. It has no random critical hits, and deals less damage for the first shot if the Spy was disguised. Starting from the top, mathematically, the 20% increased damage is nullified by a 20% slower fire rate. You see, in terms of DPS or damage per second, these two guns match up equally. If the two guns deal the same damage in the long run, but the Enforcer has 2.5 extra downsides, isn't it a downgrade? Well, not necessarily. There are a lot of factors at play. Firstly, the DPS applies to the perfect situation where both guns are continuously fired. In actual gameplay, players will normally fire, reposition. There are still some cases where players will continuously fire, such as taking out a stationary target, like an engineer building from afar. These cases are rare, however. Usually players don't continuously fire, and thus aren't burdened by the Enforcer's fire rate downside to the maximum degree. One thing the Enforcer excels at is picking off damage fleeing enemies. The greater damage makes it better at this task. It has higher burst damage. If a situation comes up where an enemy might get away and only one shot can be landed on them, the Enforcer wins versus the Revolver. What's bad about the Enforcer is that it's less forgiving than the Revolver. If a Spy misses a shot with the Revolver, that's some lost potential damage. If a Spy misses a shot with the Enforcer, that's a greater loss. So in terms of user-friendliness and reliability, the Revolver wins. The no random crit stat on the Enforcer is really bad, more so than the average player might think. Random crits aren't 100% random. To an extent, they're based off the damage the player dealt in the last 20 seconds. When a player deals damage, their sentry gun deals damage, or their heal target deals damage, the player's crit chance goes up. The base crit chance of most weapons is 2%. This percent can be boosted up to 12% by dealing damage. If a player deals 800 damage in the last 20 seconds, they get the maximum possible crit chance. Looking at the Spy class, whenever they backstab an opponent, they deal double the victim's current health times 3, because backstabs are always crits. This number can easily exceed 800. Therefore, after backstabbing a player, the Spy will almost always have maximum crit chance on their Revolver. The high critical hit chance of the Spy is completely wasted with the Enforcer. One misconception with the Enforcer is that it's more accurate. This is wrong, here's why. There's a mechanic in Team Fortress 2 called spread recovery. Basically, a lot of weapons, including these two guns, fire completely straight bullets. However, after firing a weapon, for a few seconds, any following shots will be inaccurate. If the player doesn't fire the weapon in this period of time, the weapon will recover, and the next shot will be perfect once again. The misconception is, people think since the Enforcer fires slower, that the time between shots is enough to trigger the bullet spread recovery. This is incorrect. And that's all I have to say about the Revolver versus the Enforcer. Overall, these two weapons are well balanced versus one another. It really comes down to gameplay preference and taste as to what weapon to use. A player who backstabs and fires while disguised more frequently will benefit from the Revolver more, while a player who takes a more head-on approach to playing Spy will benefit from the Enforcer more. Thanks for watching! Like if you enjoyed or learned something new, and subscribe for more videos like this one. Au revoir!